You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 187. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action today. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and I'm excited to share my stories and life lessons with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and today is all about happiness. Like, how great does that sound? My guest is Jessica Weiss, and she is the happiness expert. Jessica is like, she's just happy naturally, it seems. She is full of energy. She's full of knowledge, and she's all about happiness. And when I talk about that, I don't want you to think, oh, she's going to be one of those woo-woos, or this episode's going to be all about how we can be more happy and that it's not realistic. When in reality, every single tip and tool she offers is extremely realistic. And we're having so much fun talking not just about happiness, but about friendship. As I'm now over 42, I'm recording this and I'm still 41, but by the time this airs, I'll be 42. And I find that friendships later in life are different. It's different to make the friendships, to keep the friendships, to find time to nurture the friendships. And the types of people that become your friends simply become different. So we're talking about, how do you find those friends? Who is it that you gravitate towards? How do you make new friends? Do you need a certain type of friend in your life, or is there just the one best friend? We're talking about all of that and how friends can equal happiness and happiness can equal friends and how they all come into play. I think you're going to really love this interview. So without further ado, let's get happy and make some new friends. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Michelle.
I'm so excited to talk to you. And you're the happiness expert, and I just feel happy talking to you. So your magic works.
Well, I'm happy that it comes across the screen. That makes me super happy. But yes, I am the happiness expert, which is quite a title that I often struggle to live up to.
Introduce yourself and then tell us how you came about being the happiness expert.
Sure. So I am Jessica Weiss. I am a happiness expert, and that title came about because it was a little bit of a winding path. So let's rewind a tiny bit so I can tell you how I got there. Basically, I have an MBA. After I graduated from business school, I went on to become a management consultant, and I was doing a lot of culture work and organizational design work and helping companies like big Fortune 500 companies like Johnson & Johnson and American Express, helping them to figure out how they can be more innovative, how could they grow faster, how can they generate more revenue. And what we found in every single one of those projects, as you sort of peeled back the layers and kind of understood what was really going on in these organizations, the real question we often had to ask was, how can I do my job better? How can I have more satisfaction, happiness out of my work, right? Because if we're happier at work, we're more motivated, we're more productive, we're more creative, we're all those wonderful things. So when I realized that that was like the nugget of the question, that's when I was like, okay, this is some interesting stuff. How do we get happier at work? So that is how I came to the happiness stuff, just from like a purely professional kind of background. And then personally, it's just been a subject that I've always been interested in. And it kind of started when I was an undergrad, and I was lucky enough to take a class from Dr. Martin Seligman, who is actually the founder, let's call him the forefather of this entire positive psychology movement. And his whole belief, on top of being a psychologist and studying all of the ailments and illnesses and all of that, what he really proposed at that time and in the class, which completely grabbed my attention pretty much for the rest of my life, was, why do we always study what is wrong with people? Why are we constantly looking at what's wrong with everybody? Let's look at the people who get it right. Let's figure out what's right with people and then let's do more of that, right? Let's figure out the people who are happy, who are enjoying, who are satisfied, and let's do what they do. So that was a class I took literally when I was 18. I signed up for the class. I had no idea what I was signing up for. But from that moment on, I was like, ooh, this happiness stuff, I am hooked. And I loved it. So now I sort of, on a personal level, I devour all the books, all the interviews, all the research, all the science. It's always been a topic that's been super interesting to me. And then when it came together with my work, I was like, okay, I found something. I got it. I'm the happiness expert. And that was really, so now I do it professionally and it's stuff that I'm just super interested in.
And so are you a happy person?
Sometimes, not all the time. I think I'm pretty normal. And the truth is, I probably came to the happiness stuff because I wasn't happy, right? And I wanted to find more happiness in my life, just like everybody else did. So the answer to that is yes, sometimes. Although I definitely have some crappy days. But the truth is, I know what to do to make myself happier, right? So I know what the science says. I know what the research tells me to do. I know from personal experience the stuff that makes me happier. So that helps a lot.
The tools. And I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that people are like, well, I think of the question like, are you happy? Like nobody really says that unless it's maybe a therapist. Yeah. Nobody's like, are you happy? How are you? Good. You? Good. Okay. That's the gist of it. But to be asked, are you happy? It could go deep.
Yeah. And it's almost like we're all just kind of getting by. You don't even give yourself the space or the time to feel happy, right? You just want to like get through all the stuff that you need to do. And you don't even think about, wait, I could actually be doing this and be happy and enjoying it and being satisfied. There's actually more to life than just kind of moving through kind of ticking all those boxes and, all that like productivity, all that stuff. I feel like, wait a second, we left out one key element here. How do we actually enjoy all this stuff, right? How do we like get satisfaction from it? So yes, I feel like people don't even give themselves the luxury of asking the question.
And so what is happiness? Like I love that you said the enjoyment. How do we define what does it mean to be happy? Because it can mean different things at different times to different people. But I mean, like what overall is simply being happy?
Right. So I think that there are lots of people who have lots of different definitions of it, right? And people say there's happiness versus joy and what's the difference? So there's a lot of kind of wordplay. But for the sake of our conversation, let's say happiness is this lasting feeling of contentment, right? So it's not necessarily laughing all day long. It's not necessarily smiling or any of that. It's this internal feeling of contentment that lasts day after day. And for me, there are three components for that lasting happiness. And I think the first one comes from your friendships, your social connections, your family relationships, whatever it is. That's the first one. I like to say friends are magic. That is the first key building block to lasting and sustainable happiness. The second one is your level of engagement with your life. So by that, I mean, how interested and excited are you about all of the stuff that you are doing? So it's the opposite of this idea that you're just kind of moving through the motions. It's that you're really deeply engaged in your life. And the third one for me for happiness is getting happiness from work. How do we get satisfaction, lasting happiness from work? So if you focus on those three things, friends and social connections, your level of engagement in your life, and getting happiness and satisfaction from work, to me, that is the definition of happiness.
I love it. I love it. And let's hit on the friendship one, because you and I have talked about this before, and I'm over 40 and it's hard to start finding friends like once you're no longer in college, and now that I am not in the corporate workspace, I have more online friends. But to find these connections, then it's like you have kids and there's mommy groups, but then the kids go to different schools, and there's all of these different factors that play in finding friends when you hit a certain age, it seems. How do you find these friends, and how do you make them lasting friends, and how do you weed out the bad friends?
Yeah. Well, right. That's the real question, right? Okay. So what you're saying, you're tapping into everything that the research says, and you're saying it at 40, but the truth is we start to lose friends at 25. And that sort of makes perfect sense, right? You're no longer in school. You're no longer like you've got other life priorities. Maybe you're focusing on your career. Maybe you're focusing on a family, whatever it is. Your whole life at that point is no longer friends, right? So that's when the network really starts to shrink. So it's not 40, it's way, way before 40, right?
Excellent.
So no, but I think that should make you feel better because the truth of the matter is we're all in this together. Nobody escapes. Yes, when we're in school and we have, whether it's college and you're constantly totally focused on friends, or you're in elementary school, high school, middle school, you have recess, things are, your parents tell you, go outside, make friends, right? That's your only job when you're a kid. But the truth of the matter is when you become an adult, this is something that's going to require a little bit of planning, a little bit of purpose, a little bit of strategy. It's not stuff that just happens. And I think that we all have this romantic notion, me included, that, we should all have our friends already. Like, come on, I'm this age. Like, this is ridiculous. I can't be making friends. It's too late for me. And that right there is the thing that stops all of us from making friends because it is never, never, never too late to make more friends.
And how do we make the new friends? Because I think that when we hit, let's say we're hitting 40, you make these new friends and there's 40 years that they don't know about.
Yeah.
How do you catch up on those 40 years? Is it important to catch up on those 40 years or do you just start from where you are and, fill in the pieces as you go along?
Well, I think what's interesting about friendships is the different level of friendships that we can have, right? So, I think that it's somewhat intuitive, right? Because you meet certain people and you feel you have that deep connection with them, right? And whether you know them for 5 years or 20 years or 5 days, there are just people who oh, she totally gets me, right? She and I can totally be friends. And from there, you can start to dig into maybe a deeper friendship. But the truth of the matter is that research shows that in order to kind of have a really fulfilling and happy social connection, you need relational diversity. Okay, what does that mean? You need all different kinds of friends. You need close friends, you need acquaintances, you need mommy friends, you need jogging friends. You need friends from everywhere and everything because that is the key to happiness. So the truth is, yes, a best friend is fabulous, but let me tell you this, only 40% of people even say they have a best friend. We all think everybody has a best friend. Only 40% of people even have a best friend, but you need all kinds of friends. So there's no reason to limit yourself in any way in terms of, oh God, she doesn't know me, I need to tell her everything. That's okay too. Like, it's okay to have those light friends. That works. So I think that once we kind of open our mind to all the possibilities of friendship, it becomes much easier. It takes the pressure off of, oh my God, this has to be the relationship where I give all of my, deepest, darkest, most emotional thoughts and support. We can have it all. Like, it can be a big, wide circle.
And what about the people who are listening right now and go, oh, crap. So I have to have all these different types of friends to be happy. Like now I need a jogging friend and a mommy friend. And like, whoa, like I was fine with just looking for one friend. Now I need like 10 friends.
Okay, so the truth is, I feel like my mother used to always say, if you can count your friends on one hand, you're in good shape. So, let's kind of keep that as the backdrop of what's going on. I always say it's quality over quantity, but there is something nice in quantity because that diversity frees you from kind of the pressures of it all. So that's the only thing that I was meaning in terms of, having all different kinds of friends. It just gives you more possibilities, more options, and more potential. But the truth is, I feel like the question that we kind of all struggle with, and honestly, me included, is okay, yeah, but how do I make friends? Like, I'm busy, I'm working, I'm like, what do you do? And there are things that you can do that you can put yourself in a position to make friends, but you have to do them. Like, you've got to open your mind to the possibility that A, it's not too late, B, it's possible, and then C, you actually need to do some stuff to make it happen. That's the truth.
It absolutely is. And as you say all of this, I'm like, I'm nodding to myself because.
Okay, but it's not hard. It's not hard. Like,
no.
I'm not saying like it's not this overwhelming thing. You can figure out some things to do that will actually work in your life. Like, here's one that's super simple. Okay. And this one goes back to why we all made friends so easily in school and why it's easier to make friends at work, right? It's this idea that you see the same people every single day. right? It's that consistency and that exposure to the same people every single day. That kind of facilitates friendship. So once you've removed yourself from that situation, you need to recreate that situation as an adult. And you need to do it in a way that is not forced or artificial or weird in any way to you. So it can be as simple as walking your dog at the same time every single day, because you will see the same people every single day at the same time, right? So we can really go super simple, and then you just say hi and things kind of happen from there. It can be a question of going to work at the same coffee shop maybe every Friday at the same time every week on a consistent basis. You start to see the same people. For me, I take yoga. So I go to the same class. I see the same people. So you do what resonates for you. But the whole point is that you want to have this idea of consistent exposure to the same people so that you create an environment so that you can actually start to make friends.
So you bring up because this is where I was going with it as I think about my children. And you said, children, your job is to go and make friends. And it's so funny because even last night we're watching the fireworks. A neighbor boy is there. Another little boy comes up and my son is just talking his ear off. He's 8 and they're talking. And then all of a sudden he goes, by the way, my name is Declan and I'm Santi's neighbor and it's good to meet you. Anyway, I think the finale is coming up. And we were laughing so hard, but this is just how they do it. And yet as adults, we get very, we kind of square off. Like we're not going to just be that person. And I'm trying very hard in my life and then to teach my daughter too. Like it starts with a compliment. If you like Jessica's hair, that the lady with the blonde hair, go tell her. You like her nails? You say something, and you don't keep that back. You like it, you say something, because you're going to make that person's day.
Michelle, you're hitting on research that says this, that people love to receive compliments, and that we, as the giver of the compliment, we think it's going to be this horrible, awkward experience. And the truth is, it's not. People love to receive compliments, and you will feel good for having given someone a compliment, and they will feel great for having received the compliment. And that's an amazing way to kick off a conversation. Amazing. You hit the nail on the head.
Look at me.
Look at you making friends.
But how do we start these conversations if it's not a compliment? There could be that maybe you overheard them talking to someone else and you were like, oh, like I kind of resonate with that person or something. How do you even start that to create that friendship?
So I think the big thing is that we need to realize, and this is, again, so much of what I talk about is always based upon scientific research. So I like to go back to that because it's real, it's data, it's objective. So like whenever you're feeling, oh my God, I'm so awkward, I can't believe I just said that. And let's look at the research and see what science says about it, because it'll help you overcome all of those like social phobias that everyone has. Okay, so we all assume that nobody likes us, right? When we meet new people, it's this thing called the likability gap or liking gap. We assume that nobody likes us, that when we meet a stranger, they think we're weird and crazy and awkward. And the truth of the matter is that's absolutely untrue. People love to be spoken to. When you speak to a stranger, it increases their happiness. Just a stranger, like even if you're on the subway in the middle of New York City and you talk to the person next to you, that you would think that, oh my God, they're going to think I'm psychotic. No, it actually increases happiness. And it's a great, so that should be the first thing, right? There needs to be a mindset shift that we all assume that everybody thinks we're awkward and weird and strange. No, they actually like us. So we can actually start conversations, and that's all good. So that's the first thing. It's a little bit of like a mindset shift. The other thing I would say in terms of starting conversations is when you first meet people, it's always best to kind of find similarities. So if you meet somebody and you went to a big school and they went to a big school, but you went to 2 different schools, in order to kind of kick off the conversation and kind of grease the wheels to get things rolling, it wouldn't be like, okay, you went to the University of Michigan and I went to Michigan State. So instead of saying something like, oh, rival schools, but no, it would be something more like, oh, we both went to big schools. Did you like it? Did you go to football games? We loved going to football games. Did you like going to football games? So you kind of are always looking in those beginning moments of the conversation is looking for similarities. Similarities is going to be like it's going to facilitate more conversation.
As you say that, it's so funny because I'm thinking of someone who starts off conversations totally the opposite.
Right.
And it's an individual that I'm like, I don't want to hang out with you. Like, you suck. Like, everything is like me. And this is my experience. And it's so much better than yours. And you're like, womp
Well,
womp.
it's that whole idea of like one-upsmanship. I think that
Yes.
people, right? People think that that's a good way to have a conversation, but the truth is it's not. It's really off-putting to the other person. You're much better off finding like places of similarity where you guys can, even if it's not similar, find a point of similarity so that the conversation can flow from there.
Oh, I'm going to have to send this episode to people. But now I don't want to be friends. So for
Well,
your
you can meet new friends.
future friendships that you might want to have here, listen to this episode.
You know, another great way to meet friends, and this one is it takes the pressure off of you, is if you have a friend who's like one of those super connectors. So that like super extroverted person who knows everybody. If you in some way can kind of hook yourself into her network or his network, that is a great way to start the friendship ball rolling because first of all, as that extroverted super connector, they love bringing other people along, right? And if you go to them and say, hey, I was wondering, do you have any recommendations? I just moved to town. Or, you know, my kids are in school full time, or I'm working from home and I'd love to meet new people. Have you done anything fun? And those people will love to bring you along. And those people love to be helpful, right? That's what fills their cup. So by going to them and asking them for advice, recommendations, you're kind of creating the situation for them to invite you to all their stuff or introduce you to somebody who's similar. So I say super connectors are a great way to kind of start the wheels of friendship.
I can totally agree with that because one of my friends, and I know she's listening because we were talking yesterday, and she goes, I listen every week, right? No, Cindy, I didn't know. Like, I don't have this magical little Cindy, just listen to your episode. But now she's hearing her name. So, but Cindy and I met because of another friend who invited us both to a dinner party and sat us next to each other. And this was over a decade ago. And now Cindy and I are great friends. And she was here yesterday. So, yes, super connectors, other friends, meeting friends through friends.
Yes.
I just started a book club. We had our first meeting. And
amazing.
It was kind of random. I was like, oh, baseball coach's wife, son's friend's mom that's my friend from the PTA. Oh, Cindy too. We pulled from all of these different things and we're like, oh, this is kind of fun because I also felt like I didn't want the same type of people that are from the same circle. I felt like there was like, it could cause drama per se.
Yeah.
But if we're all doing different things and from different walks of life, this might be more fun.
Right. No. And you're tapping into another perfect thing. And this also goes back to like our childhood, right? So in school, you would always join extracurricular activities, right? You'd go to school and then after school, you'd do the fun stuff. So whatever it is, whether it was sports or theater or student government, but that would be an additional place for you to make friends. Maybe that was where you really made friends. But as an adult, we don't really have those like pre-prescribed clubs, but a book club is exactly it. You want to go into the stuff that you're interested in, your special interests, and either create a group, join a group, but that's perfect. That's another great way. And then again, you've got consistency, exposure, all that stuff that we were talking about. And even better, you're talking like you're doing an activity which takes pressure off, right? Everybody can come. We all know what we're talking about. It's not going to be awkward, right? We're all talking about the book. It makes life much, much easier because we all hate small talk. So all of that is perfect. Like the book club hits on like so many of those friendship points.
And it totally evolved too. I was like, I've never run a book club before. I don't know what y'all read the book. Some of you read the book. Nobody read the book. Okay. Well, we'll just, who liked the book? We'll start with that. What did you like?
Who read half the book?
Oh, you read next month's book? Okay. We can talk about that too. But it was good because it did veer away from the book at times, but that did give us that focal point of, okay, now we get to know each other because of what you liked and what you didn't like and what resonated with you. And yeah, it was definitely fun. But then it's that, okay, we're all a bunch of moms, time. Can we all make this day? We literally, I stopped saying, when can you make it? I said, just give me the dates of when you cannot make it. Yeah. And then I will put that on the calendar and I'll pick a day where everybody can do it.
Well, you're tapping into something else also around friendship and also like the difficulty of creating new friendships as adults is this idea that we don't have time, right? So it becomes this huge planning thing of like, oh, are we meeting on Monday? I can't meet on Tuesday. Can you meet next Thursday? Nah, how about Friday? But the idea that it's a ritual, right? Let's say that your group maybe meets every second Tuesday of the month. Everybody keeps it free. It takes off the pressure. It makes life much easier. It's not a question of like, who did the inviting last time? I have to invite her. She invited me. Should we invite him? Right? All of so as much, my one piece of advice for you around the book club is make it the second Tuesday of every month, right? Everybody knows it's the second Tuesday of the month. And that's it. And it takes the pressure off and everybody kind of plans around it. It makes life a whole lot easier. This idea of like creating a ritual, because as adults, there's nothing more annoying than having to plan, at least for me. Like, I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
I tapped out. I'm done.
No, and we did that. We were like the third Tuesday of the month. And then that third Wednesday, I'm leaving at 6:40 in the morning. I was like, yeah, Tuesday's not going to work for me. We're going to have to move it to Monday because
No, I
life is
know.
busy. But
Of course.
yeah, all of those things are factors. And then it's like, well, where do we go? Where do we meet? You know, but yet you just do it. And when you do it, you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
No, as much as you can create a ritual around it, like as much as it can be kind of set in stone and not taxing like another decision, is going to make it that much easier. So that would be my advice in terms of that.
What do you think of? I don't even know if these exist anymore. There was that like app. It was not like Tinder, but it was for friendships. Was it Bumble?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Bumble BFF. Yeah.
Is it still around? I don't even know.
I don't know. I think it might be. And I think it works. I think first of all, I think using social media for those kinds of things is great. I think social media can also be a little bit of a disaster when it comes to friendship, right? Because we all see what everybody else is doing. And it's like that whole idea of like, oh my God, everybody else has it figured out. And why am I not at 10 parties this weekend? And I'm sitting here scrolling through Instagram. But I do think if you use social media well, social media can be a great outlet for making friends. And for me, the stories that I've heard, I've never used Bumble BFF, but I think it works from what I've heard from people that I've worked with is it works really well if you're moving to a new city or you're relocating for a certain period of time. So kind of coming to Bumble BFF with a purpose. Like, okay, I just moved to Chicago, and then you can kind of take it from there. I think that actually works really well.
When I moved to Chicago and I had no friends, there was a group for like adventures. Like you would sign up and you could go, like whitewater rafting or whatever interests you. But it cost so much money that I was like, it's not worth the friendship that I could make. So I just made friends in my condo, and then that expanded. But yeah, when you go to a new city and you're like, I know no one, so I'm either going to sit here or I'm going to go to the coffee shop, because I also worked from home. So that was a good time. And this was like early social media. I don't think I even had an Instagram account.
Right. So, but you did this stuff. Look, you made friends in your condo because it was people that you saw regularly, right? It was all those you intuitively know all the right things to do, right? Or you went to the coffee shop and you saw the same people. There's definitely things that we can do to make friends as adults. We just have to keep doing those things.
What do you think stops people from doing the things?
I think the biggest one is that people have this romanticized notion of friendship, that it's all done and settled. And, at 22, you've made all your friends and now you just kind of move through life and it all is, I've got my group and we've known each other for however many years and it's all done. I think that idea that I'm embarrassed that I don't have that romanticized idea of friends, it's too late for me, forget about it, I can't do it. That I think is the biggest thing. I think it's a mindset thing, is the biggest thing that holds people back.
And what about drama in friendships? And I'll give you a real life and then my TV, what I look at. For example, it's like Real Housewives. I'm always amazed that you all call yourselves friends and then you go on vacation and you hate each other and talk crap.
Yeah.
Like I would not go on vacation with you if I did not like you.
Yeah.
I get it's TV, but then I've seen even in real life, like drama being created. And for me, I'm like, cut, we're done. Like, I don't need that. I am over 40. That's not what friendship is about. Like, what is that about? And then there's some people who don't cut it. Like, no, I'm just going to keep being friends with you, even though you make me miserable and I can't stand it. You're not good for my mental health. But, keep coming at me, and that's great, and we'll
Yeah.
be quote unquote friends.
Yeah. Well, I think there's like a bunch of stuff going on there with what you said. I think that a lot of us hold on to friendships for a little too long because of the sheer fact that you've been friends for so long, right? It's like, well, we've been friends since, for 20 years. How can I let it go? But the truth of the matter is that friendships don't last a lifetime. There are very few friendships that last a lifetime. Friendships on average last about 7 years. Like, we're constantly changing friends, and it's the size of the network stays the same, but lots of different people come in and out based upon your life circumstance and what's going on with you, whether you have kids, don't have kids, whatever it is. So I think that that's the first thing. Like, a lot of us hold on to, we all feel like, oh, I must have friends for 30 years and we can't not be friends. So that's the first one. The second one, I think, is friendship is this funny thing, very different than like a romantic relationship. A romantic relationship, I feel like we go into romantic relationships and like, you're going to fight with your partner, right? It's pretty much like, just because you have one fight, the relationship's not over, right? You know that this is kind of the dynamic of the relationship. I think with friends, there's something different. Like, you don't expect to fight with a friend. And if you fight with a friend, right, one little small fight, you're like, oh, that's it. It's over. And I think what we really need to do is normalize this idea of conflict in our female friendships. I think that we all think that a little bit of conflict means it's no longer meant to be. And I actually think a little bit of conflict is super healthy for a relationship, right? Because if you overcome the conflict, you have a stronger friendship at the end of it. So I think that there's that idea. So we're holding on to friends for too long. We have to normalize the idea of a little bit of healthy conflict in a friendship. And I think as we get older, we all understand that we have boundaries. There's stuff that we like. There's stuff that we don't like, right? And we become infinitely more comfortable with saying it, right? Maybe you don't want to spend the weekend at your friend's house. You want to sleep in your own bed. You're not interested in doing that anymore. Set the boundary. And you know what I mean? And that's okay. So I think that those are kind of some of the things that go on with friendship that maybe sometimes we need to think about. Is it too long? Is it time to let the friendship go? Is it a little bit of healthy conflict that will only serve to make the friendship better? And then 3, do I have to kind of establish some boundaries that will make this friendship easier? Like, just because I don't want to spend the weekend at your house doesn't mean we can't be friends. I just don't want to spend the weekend at your house. I really love you. You're fabulous, but I like sleeping in my own bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are some things I would think about in terms of like conflict with friendships.
I love it. This is so much fun.
I love talking about friendships. I think it's especially female friendships, because it's such an important part of our lives. Very different than male friendships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Male friendships serve a very different purpose. They're friends in very different ways. They talk about very different things. But female friendships are kind of essential to who we are, right? It's like what we look to for emotional support. It's a very important part of our overall happiness, truly. So I think understanding the dynamics of female friendships is so enlightening and really kind of frees you to make more friends and have more happiness. Like, I love it. I love the whole friendship things. I love hearing about people's friendships. I am the person who sits on the subway and likes to overhear the person talking. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't do that. The research says.
I love it. I'm the eavesdropper, but I don't butt in, but I would like to butt in sometimes.
Well, have you ever been in this situation where you're the eavesdropper and then the table? So if you're sitting like in a restaurant and you're listening to the other, I've been at the table where I'm talking and I'll tell the person I'm with, shh, this conversation over here, much more interesting. Give me a second. and then the 2 people at the table next to me will look at me like, what are you doing? And I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe I got caught.
I haven't been caught, but I will.
Oh, I have been caught.
There'll be like a conversation going on. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I was listening to that one. Did you just hear what happened over here? He did this and she did that. And my husband will be
these
like,
two
oh
are on
God.
a first date. Like, listen to this.
My son does it too. He's 8 and he'll be like, Mommy, I just heard them say, I'm like, shh, you can listen, but you can't repeat it that loud. We'll talk later.
No, not until we leave. Not until we leave.
Tell Mommy later. I love it. Jessica, where can everyone find you and also listen to your TED Talk? We didn't even talk about that.
Yes. So my TEDx talk is called Happiness. It's an inside job. And you can just Google that and it's on YouTube, or you can find it through the TED site, but it's Jessica Weiss, Happiness. It's an inside job. You can find me on social media. I am a newbie on social media, so I would appreciate any and all follows. So on Instagram, I am the Jessica Weiss. On TikTok, I am the Jessica Weiss. And please, if you're on LinkedIn, come find me there. I accept any and all connections. And all of my
Let's not accept all connections.
And all of my everything lives on jessicaweiss.com. So if you're in doubt, go to jessicaweiss.com.
Thank you so much. And thank you for putting an even bigger smile on my face and making me so
I'm
happy.
so glad. This was so much fun. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. So what are you going to do today? Are you going to go on that walk with your dog? Are you going to go to the coffee shop and work and make these new routines? Are you going to give it a compliment to somebody that you see who has great hair, who's wearing the outfit that you think looks just perfectly on point? Start doing it. Put yourself out there and make those new friends, because these friendships are going to bring more happiness into your life. And who doesn't want to be happy? I know I certainly do. I know that it's a balance. We're going to have bad days. We're going to have good days. But if we have the tools to know how to get into that happy place on those bad days, then there are no more bad days. They're just okay days, which is way better than having a really crappy bad day. So go listen to Jessica's TEDx talk. It's like 15 minutes, so you can totally get it in, during your morning walk or meditation or whatever it is, because she offers some great tips and tools in that too. And I just think that we all owe it to ourselves to do whatever we can to be happy. We only have so much time on this earth, so why waste it in any other emotion other than happiness? Go be happy, my friends. Until next week, I'll talk to you soon.